really for the last 25 plus years. When this opportunity came about, I really saw this as a way to help, especially neighbors who we know struggle and that often come back to St. Vincent de Paul multiple times to ask for help. This is such a gift right now to our neighbors to be able to get help with rent, but also in the future to look at paying for rental assistance in the future so that they can possibly put some money away and to help themselves financially. So, so really, I like the SAFHR program. It is the statewide program in Missouri. I have not done any applications with the county cares or the city cares. I know it's also called IRP in the county. The county program, from what I understand, is pretty much out of funding. So I would not even recommend that you steer people who are in need in that direction. Because even if you go to the county cares, their website, they have a link to the SAFHR program because right now SAFHR still has $150 million in rental assistance, and they will have that for and through September of 2022. So I know it's well funded. I also like it because it's a program that is easy to check up on these applications to see where they're at, to see if there's corrections that need to be made. I really like the way SAFHR does it. So I just prefer SAFHR. What I really like about the SAFHR application is it will be reviewed in 14 days, which is 2 weeks. I just have one that was reviewed in 9 days, which is very significant because to be able to have an answer after 9 days after we made the application, you know, that's what landlords want to hear. They want to hear that these applications are going through and that they're being processed. If the county and the city program, you're looking at like 2 months before people find out if they've been approved. And usually if they haven't and they have to make corrections, you're looking at another, you know, month, probably even 2 months before that application is reviewed again. I know that the landlords that I've spoken to do not like the CARES program just because they cannot get reimbursed for the rent that these neighbors owe.
Lynn?
Yes.
Could I interrupt with a question, or do you prefer that we wait?
We have a small group, so I think questions as we go along will work. So yeah.
Okay. On the previous slide, you were talking about the CARES program.
Yes.
And now, is that referring back to the program that was, I think it initially started like, April or May in 2020. And there's been some additional funding since then from some additional COVID relief acts that were passed in late 2020 and early 2021.
So I'm not really sure. What I know is that larger metropolitan areas, St. Louis City and St. Louis County, were eligible to apply for the same rental assistance funding that the entire state of Missouri was able to apply for.
Right.
And so the county cares and the city cares and the SAFHR are all coming out of the same pot of money, but yeah, it is just based on population. But go ahead.
One piece of information that I actually got from one of our neighbors in need who applied in St. Louis County, the first round of the most recent funding, which was $30 million, is completely gone. So, that, I think that's that first bullet there, the 99.9% allocated.
Yes.
But or the letter that she got indicated that there was another 30 million of funding that was going to become available early in 2022. So there's like two phases to this. And in the county, I don't know what the situation is in the city, but in the county, there supposedly is another $30 million that's going to begin to be available early in 2022.
So I don't doubt that. What I know right now is SAFHR has money and neighbors can access it.
Yeah.
And I know that I figured that if the county was already out of money, they probably would ask for more. I will tell you this, I was asked to review a county application for a neighbor, and I could get in and see that it wasn't being approved, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Whereas with the SAFHR application, I can actually go in and see what the reviewer said about the application, and it will say on section 2, question 4C, it needs to be revised. The county cares program is not that specific, and it is very difficult to find out where the mistake was made. I like SAFHR. It is just a more user-friendly program. And it's easier for me to get in and see what's going on with the application. And so as of right now, the county doesn't have that new money yet. So I'm really, asking you guys to look at SAFHR because I know they have money. They have only spent about half of what they were given in federal funding.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give you, these are kind of the 3 places you can go for the program information. And I don't know, can we so this MissouriHousingResources.com, I'm going to show you what that website looks like real quick. It's at the second tab. Okay, so this is MissouriHousingResources.com. This is what the website looks like. And it's really, So this is where you want to go if you have questions about the program. And I just wanted to show you what it looks like because this tells you everything that you need to know. And it should be able to answer your questions for the rental assistance. So this is the MissouriHousingResources.com. And then you'll see up here is, I also have this 800 number. So whenever you do make a SAFHR application, if you ever have questions, you can call this 800 number. I've had a lot of success when I've called that number to get the person on the other line has given me like little tips and hints that let me know how to make these applications successful. Can you go back to PowerPoint? Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go back up here real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not technologically Zoom savvy, so you'll have to excuse me. So then this other one is the application. It's the SAFHR smapply.org. And that's where you go when you're actually going to make the application. And I'm going to take you into that screen here in just a minute. So, so what my hope is by doing these Zoom sessions is to get all of the Vincentians more familiar with the SAFHR and the way the application goes so that you can help the neighbors in need make these applications. I know it's asking a lot of Vincentians, and for some people, this just may be beyond what you feel comfortable doing. I have not met a Vincentian yet that I don't think is capable of helping with these applications. I know as a social worker, oftentimes what happens is that the neighbors make connections with the Vincentians, and they really learn to trust the Vincentians, and oftentimes will go to their Vincentians for help. And so if you are referring them to yet another agency or someplace else to make these applications, sometimes our neighbors just get discouraged and they drop out. They don't follow through. They get intimidated by just the fact that they're going to have to apply online. And, you know, they may not follow through with this wonderful gift that the SAFHR program is. And so really, I want you to know, not only are you going to be helping the Vincentians, but you're probably going to end up having to reach out to the landlords too, just because you need their help to make these applications successful. And so what you're going to do is just kind of be that, that middle person to talk to everyone about what they need to do just to make sure that these applications will be successful. I've actually established some relationships with some of the apartment managers to where they call me directly and say, hey, I've got a client that, or a tenant that I may have to evict if they don't get some rental assistance help and get it quickly. And I think that you can help them do this. So I've actually been able to, you know, just get the landlords buy-in and some of these apartment managers buy-in so that they will help our neighbors. Okay, can we get in? All right, so now I'm going to take you into what the actual application looks like. No, that one. And then can you go up?
Can you guys see that? Can you see the page now?
Yeah. All right, so this is once you make an application, and so I will tell you what I do for people, and I have a slide, we'll get back to it, but when I help people apply, they're gonna need an email address, and then we're gonna have to come up with a password. What I do is I always use their address as their password. And one of the reasons I do that is because it's not asking them to give me probably a password that they use for everything. And it becomes a password that I can easily remember. Everybody has a house number, they have a street address, and then you're required to do a special character. I always do a money sign because we're asking for money. And that way I feel like it's really easy. They don't have to remember it because I know exactly what we're going to use as a password. And then it allows me to go in to their application if there's any questions about if something needs to be reviewed or if we need to make any corrections into the application. And one of the reasons why I'm giving you this suggestion is if you come across an application that you cannot figure out why it's not being approved, I am happy to help your conference figure it out. I would be happy to go in and look at an application that any conference is working on that you're having trouble with. So also what I want to show you is there's this live chat down here in the corner. I also use that if I have questions about something that's going on with the application. So in the application, there's really just 4 parts, and then we make a landlord referral. And so I'm just gonna take you through the 4 parts real quick. The first and the last part are very easy because they are just asking questions. And so really the way you start the application is you just come into this checklist, and what it does is it's just going to ask you simple questions. Are you a resident of the state of Missouri? And you can say yes. Are you seeking financial assistance for a property that is not a vacation rental property? Yes. I go through and I always read out loud these bolded sections to the neighbor to make sure that they understand what the questions are. And if they are just going to answer them yes or no. So in this is a section that I have already completed, so it has a check mark. But if you ever realize that you've answered a question that you need to go in and change anything after you've completed a section, these 3 little dots up here, you hit edit, and if you'll see now there's a half circle, and it means now I can go back down and I can change anything in this application. Okay, so now this first section that I've already completed, I can go back in and change anything up here. So this is kind of what this first section looks like. When you do the applications, people are gonna have to do a signature in here. I always recommend that to try to use a computer. These applications can be done through a mobile device. I find that they're very difficult, and it's so easy to make mistakes when you're trying to do it from a mobile device. So really, if you have a laptop that you can use to help a neighbor make the application, I think that's really important. I try to go to a public place when I help a neighbor with an application. My 2 favorite places are the public library. Even if you don't have a laptop, you can always use one of the computers at the library. I know the county and the city, both, you can sign up for a computer and you can do this application with any PC. So I like to use my own laptop. That way I can kind of do some things in advance. And I'll show you what some of those things are. A lot of it is when you're doing these applications, you're gonna have to upload some information. And so after you get through the checklist, which is just really simple information, section 1 is what you're gonna go to. And this is where you're gonna have to really start filling in the information for our neighbors. And it's really just, you know, primary information. It's gonna ask them just some basic information. But up here, this is where one of the first places where you're gonna need to upload a copy of some form of identification. Most people have either a driver's license or just a state ID. I always take a picture of it with my phone. I email it to myself, and then I can easily upload it into the application from my email. And then this section is just asking them some more information. Most people that I've been working with are they are a single household. And so really you're just gonna come down here and you're just gonna put in their information. I'm I'm going kind of quickly, so I apologize. I just want to try to get through this. But it really is just asking them basic information. Now, this 5 and 6, I just want to kind of point out, a lot of people either are applying because they don't have any income, or they have lost their jobs recently, which is kind of how they got behind on rent. So this is a question that is just asking you if you have been employed, or it's really just looking at the last 90 days. So you just want to help them answer if they're unemployed and if it's been in the last 90 days. So this number 6, I think, is important because some people don't think they've been really affected by COVID, but really this application is very generous, and it will give you 3 options. Either the person's receiving unemployment benefits, they've seen a reduction in their household income due to the pandemic, or they have incurred significant costs or other financial hardship due to the pandemic, directly or indirectly. I really like this 3rd option because it's kind of a catch-all. Everybody has been directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic. So it's really this 3rd option is kind of that catch-all that everyone should qualify under. So again, it's just going to ask the person to make their signature. I usually bring a mouse with me to kind of help the person with their signature, just to help them sign, because there's going to be 5 places where they're going to sign. So now this next part is just asking about income. And so it's really asking about why they're making this application, if it's either based on their income in the last 30 days, or if it's based on their 2020 annual income. So both the city and the county have the exact same financial eligibility, which is the median income for the city and the county, which is $58,000. And it's saying that anyone who makes 80% of that median income will qualify for this rental assistance. And that 80% income, so anyone who makes less than $47,000 will, and that is just for a single person, will qualify for this rental assistance. Now, under this question 8, it's going to give you 7 options. And if the person is receiving or is enrolled in any of these programs, they will automatically qualify for rental assistance. So just real quick, there's SNAP, which is food stamps. There's TANF, which is the cash assistance. There's the SSI, which is disability. If it is a young mother with children, she may be enrolled in the WIC program. If they have a child enrolled in Head Start, if they get the earned income tax, or if they are on Medicaid, they will automatically qualify for this rental assistance, no problem. The only thing you'll have to do is provide proof that they are enrolled in one of these programs. So today I went out and met with a gentleman who I am going to help with his application tomorrow. He's on Medicaid. I asked him to get his Medicaid card out. I took a picture of the Medicaid card, and tomorrow when we do the application, I will upload the copy of his Medicaid. Now, this gentleman also gets food stamps and is on SSI, but he couldn't provide me with any information from those 2 programs. But I don't have to worry about it because I have a copy of his Medicaid card. And that will automatically, if you can answer yes to this question 8, if a person is enrolled in any of these federal programs, they will qualify for rental assistance. So then you just keep going down and answering these questions of what their estimated annual income is, And then down here, you're gonna have to put them in one of three categories. If they are 0 to 30 of that median income, 30 to 50, or 50 to 80. So I've had people who are in the 50 to 80. Those are the people who are working in, you know, a low income job, whether they are doing like a home health type job. I had a woman who was working at Walmart. She only made $43,000 a year, so she was able to qualify for rental assistance through this 50 to 80%. Most people that I've worked with usually fall in that 0 to 30 category. So you do not, yeah, yes.
How do you prove the food stamps one? And you said the other guy couldn't. Is there a way to prove that?
So most people who get food stamps get a letter telling them what their food stamp allocation for the year will be. And so there is also a way to look up a person's information through the state of Missouri. You may have to call and get a copy of their food stamp enrollment. But most people that I've worked with have a copy of that letter. They've gotten something that says, especially around this time of the year, they should have gotten a letter in September stating what their food stamps will be for the next year, 2022.
Okay. And then if they qualify for both number 1 and 3 in the prior slide, the third one you said, you know, was everybody has been affected. And the first one I think was that they are on
Unemployment.
Unemployment, yes. Which one would be the better answer?
So if they have unemployment and you can prove that they're getting unemployment, that's really the best answer to go with.
Okay.
If you can pick one of those three, you should be good.
Okay.
So again, you're just helping people answer these questions. There's every single section they're gonna have to sign it. And so here's another one. Again, you're just gonna go through. These are pretty self-explanatory. Just help them fill out every part of this application. Now here, right here, 12C, this is where you upload whatever document that shows they're in one of these 7 programs. So tomorrow when I help the gentleman, I will just upload the pictures of the front and back of his Medicaid card, and I know he will qualify. So, and then once you get through a section, you can just mark it as complete. Now this section, because I didn't upload anything, it's still telling me it's open. And it won't let you complete that section until you've done everything you're supposed to. So up here, I've already completed this, but I'm going to open it up so I can edit it so you can see what it's going to look like. So this section up here is now where you start getting into their rent, what their rent is, what they owe, how much it's going to cost them a month. So let me go back. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to the previous one because I'm on page 2 right there. So in here, so you see up here, it's telling me I've got 0% completed in this section. So on this first one, the reason that I liked SAFHR is because you can ask for what they owe, and then you can ask for forward rent of 3 months. This is the gift that is going to help our neighbors, because when you're talking about even the lowest rent that I've helped with, which is like $500 a month, you're giving them a gift of $1,500 in the future for rent. And this is where I tell people, this is how you really can help yourself, is because if you're applying in December, you're gonna give them the gift of rent for January, February, and March. That's big to a lot of our neighbors to know that they are not gonna have to worry about rent for the next 3 months. In these applications, you can ask for utility assistance, but I will tell you, I was told when I called that 800 number one time, that this utility assistance is a lot of times what holds up these applications. The utility companies are not, they are not holding off their disconnect notices based on the fact that, that our neighbors have made these applications for these rental assistance programs. So today, went out and talked to a gentleman. He gave us his Ameren bill, which is set to be disconnected tomorrow. So there's no way that we can put in the utility assistance in this application, because we're gonna have to cover his utility assistance right now. This is the one part that I do wanna ask the conferences to really provide for our neighbors, is just cover the utility assistance out of St. Vincent de Paul funding, and just only use SAFHR for rent. It makes a cleaner application, and you know it's gonna go through if it's just based on rent.
Lynn,
When you talk,
oh,
Go ahead.
Lynn, can I ask a couple of questions about the rent and the
Sure.
amount? So we have one of our neighbors who has not paid for quite some time, her rent. Now I wish I had gone through this before, because I would have sat down and made sure that she was able to get the paperwork filled out completely or correctly. So how far back will they pay her? You know, can she get her rent paid? Do they have a limit on the amount they'll pay?
There is no dollar amount limit.
Okay,
If a person owes $10,000 in back rent, as
Uh-huh.
long as
What's
it's
the
for, they will only pay 12 months of rental assistance.
okay,
So you can use that however you want.
okay,
They will not go over that 12-month limit. So if a person
Okay.
hasn't paid rent in 2 years, you're only gonna be able to help them out with 12 months.
and the other, okay, that helps, because maybe that'll work for her. Now, so how has your turnaround been as far as actually getting the money to the landlord, or, you know, for the neighbors in need?
So as soon as the application is approved, which it takes
Uh-huh,
about 14 days,
okay,
then they tell the landlords, once it's been approved, then it's gonna take 3 to 4 weeks for the landlords to get their money.
3 to 4 weeks.
Yes, most
Okay.
landlords are, all they wanna know is that the person's been approved, because at that point, they know they're gonna get paid. Like
Okay,
they absolutely know SAFHR is gonna pay them.
okay.
It's
Now,
just,
are you following up with the landlords as well to make sure that they're getting the funding?
yes. So
Okay.
every application I've had that's been approved, the
Okay.
landlord has gotten their money.
Okay,
They absolutely, and they get it all in one lump sum. So
Okay.
even if you're asking for the forward rent,
uh-huh,
they will get all of that paid at one time with, in a same check as the past rent. So they will get it all at one time.
okay. Okay, and this is working better for those landlords that are like from our apartment complex and that apartment complexes. And we have a couple of landlords that are like independent landlords. And apparently there's been some snag because they don't have the EIN number or whatever tax forms that they have to fill out.
Well, but I helped a gentleman who just had rental property. He didn't
Mhm.
have an EIN number,
Okay,
but we just had to submit a W-9, and I will show you that later.
Okay.
It's a simple form. As long as they have a social security number,
Ah,
they will get
okay.
paid. They do not have to have an EIN number.
Okay.
So, I mean, I know it can be done, but a lot of times the landlords misread what they're
Mhm.
supposed to be providing, which is kind of why you have to help both parties
Okay.
here to get this to work.
Okay.
So, but as long as the landlord has a social security
Social
number,
Security.
they can fill out this W-9 form and they will get paid.
Okay.
So right here is just where you have to fill out like what type of unit it is. If they are in an apartment or if they're renting a mobile home, or if they're just have a single home family, you just have to pick what type of unit that they're in. And this is really just getting all this information. So now here's where you do your monthly rent. I just made this up, $700 a month. Now this is where you're gonna have to upload a lease. And they have to have a valid lease. So I have one neighbor who moved in 2016, signed a lease for 1 year and then has never signed a lease since then. If a person doesn't have a valid lease, there is a workaround for that. There is a document and you will find it up here in this link. It's this minimum lease requirement. That you can click on that and it will take you to what is the rental attestation form. And it's basically you're just making a lease and having both the tenant and the landlord sign it to say, this is our agreement, that the person's gonna pay $700 a month, that they are on a month-to-month lease. It's due on the first of the month. And I'm gonna show you what that form looks like a little later, okay? But you can always find it up here if you just click on this lease, this minimum lease requirement. So do not worry if you can't produce a lease for the neighbor. There is a form that we can fill out that will give them a valid lease. Okay, and so here's where you have to upload the lease. Usually if you work with a property management company, they can send you an electronic version of the lease, which is what I like, because then I just upload it up into their application. Okay, you do have to figure out how much they owe. And SAFHR pays all of their penalties that they have accrued for their outstanding rent. So if you work with any of these property management companies, they assess fees for everything. There's a fee for not paying on the 1st or the 5th of the month whenever it's really due. And then maybe they start, tacking on $10 a day until it gets paid. So whatever the fees are, SAFHR will pay it to the landlord, which is one of the things the landlords kind of like, because I know a lot of times when we are dealing with outstanding rent, a lot of times we'll tell property management companies, at least our St. Vincent de Paul conference, we're not paying all your late fees. We will pay what they owe. One of the things you got to do is get rid of those late fees, but SAFHR will pay all the late fees that this person has accrued, and they will pay it to the management company as long as the management company can produce a ledger that shows where all those penalties and where all those fees came into play. So we'll show you in just a minute what that ledger looks like, okay? So this pays everything they owe outstanding. I hope that most people don't have more than 9 months of back rent, because that gives you then the extra 3 months to work with to ask for the forward rent. So in this scenario, I just said the person was 3 months behind and that they owe $2,100. So here is where then you're gonna upload that ledger. Most property management companies can provide you with a very detailed ledger that tells you every month, you know, what they paid and what they're gonna owe. But I will also show you in the case of I had an 82-year-old landlord that didn't do leases. He didn't do letters to say what they owe. I helped him create a letter that would work that showed what the neighbor owed. So in here, you're gonna ask for the forward rent. Hopefully the person doesn't have more than 9 months of back rent they owe. And then that gives you the flexibility to ask for these 3 months of forward rent. I've had scenarios where as of January 1st, that rent increases for our neighbors. That's fine. SAFHR will pay for that rent increase for January, March, or January, February, March, as long as you can produce something from like a new lease that shows what the rental increase will be. But SAFHR will pay that if their rent is going to be increasing. So again, this is the little section where you help them sign it. And then this particular section has 2 pages. Okay. So here it's telling you what you put in as past rent, what you're looking for forward rent. Now this section, I'll explain in just a minute, but if a person is only needing 6 months, at some point, they may be able to make a second application. If they get behind again, let's say in May or June of next year, they can possibly make a second SAFHR application. Okay, and this would be where you would put in that they had made a previous application. Now, this section here has tripped me up more than once, where I wasn't paying attention to the year and I just started clicking the months that they had past due, and I was clicking for the wrong year. So you got to go back down here to 2021, find the months that they owe, and then ask for the months that you're going to ask for in the future. Okay. So, and then once you do this second section, you just mark it as complete. And then once you get this green check, that tells you you've done everything in that section you were supposed to do. This last section, again, it's just reading these statements to the neighbor and confirming that they understand everything that they're being asked for. I mean, there is a section in here that says if at some point they find that they made a fraudulent application, they would have to repay it. But we're helping everyone make legitimate applications. So in here, it's just pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to confirm all of these statements. There is a section in here, if someone is in a domestic violence relationship, they can get extra protections. I haven't ran into that. You're just gonna put your date, your name, and then help them sign it again. And then this section is complete. Now here at the end, there is a section that you can kind of explain what the person's situation is. I've had a lot of people who have gotten sick over this past year. They've been hospitalized. They lost their job because of that they were hospitalized. And so this is kind of the section where I can explain what's going on. I've actually done these SAFHR applications for people who are only asking for forward rent. And that's a possibility. And we've been approved for that. I had someone that was getting ready to go in the hospital and have surgery. It was in a surgery that couldn't be done due to COVID, but now hospitals are starting to do those surgeries again. They knew that they were going to be without income while they were recovering from their surgery. In this section, we just explained what was going on. And we got the 3 months of forward rent paid for them. This little last section, it just asked if the person had help. I always put that yes, we are a community organization and we are St. Vincent de Paul, and that we helped the person with their application. If there's something that you feel that will strengthen the application, if they have outstanding medical bills, or I did upload the letter for the gentleman that we were only asking for the forward rent for him. I put in his surgery letter stating when his surgery was going to be and about how long they expected his recovery to be. And I do believe that that helped his application. This last little section is just kind of, they wanting to make sure that you're a real person doing this. So they just ask you a question and you answer it. Once you've done that, you just mark it as complete. This last section and is where you're going to go down here, and this is, you're requesting a recommendation from the landlord. When you hit this, it allows you to go down and put all the landlord's information, just their first, last name, and email. And then it sends the landlord their part to do for this application. And then you'll just send the request. And once you've done those 5 sections, you can't complete it until the landlord completes theirs. But then once you do it, you can hit submit. And now you've done the SAFHR application for our neighbors. Okay.
How long did you say the money is going to be here till September of 2022 or?
That is, that people can apply up until September 2022. Yes. So if people are behind in rent in September of next year, they can still make an application. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like in September, if they'll be able to do forward rent or not. But I think for right now, you know, we just make the applications and we ask for the forward rent. So here's just kind of some slides, just reviewing a lot of the information I just gave you. This is just about passwords. When you help people with their application, it is so important that they let you have their login information, which is just their email and their password. And this is why I just recommend that you use their address. It just makes it so easy. That way you don't have to go back to them and say, now what was your password again? And they don't have to be really guarded about giving you a password because they can only think of one, and that's the one that they use for everything. So it's real easy. This is just the address of St. Gabriel's that I used as the example. Again, it's just the numbers, the street name, and our special character is the $sign. And if you have their password, then it helps you troubleshoot if there's any corrections that need to be made to their application. The biggest piece of helping our neighbors is helping them upload these documents, because most of them don't know how to upload a document into the application. This is why I like to use my own personal laptop, because it allows me, when I've contacted the landlords, they can send me copies of the lease, they can send me the ledger. I can make sure that I have all of those documents saved on my laptop, so that when I help my neighbor make the application, it's just easy to upload. I also, it's very easy to take a picture right there when you're helping them, especially if they're providing you with something that they didn't have. Maybe if you made a home visit before, and we're asking for, you know, if you're asking for them to produce something that says that they are on SSI, if they're getting disability, or if they get food stamps. And they've all of a sudden found their letter and they bring it to the meeting where you're gonna help them with the application. You can just take a quick picture and then upload that picture into the SAFHR application. So these are the things that your neighbor is gonna need. You need a copy of their photo ID. You need a valid lease. It must be signed by both the tenant and the landlord. I had a landlord try to send me one that they didn't sign, and they couldn't sign it because it was over a year old. So we ended up having to use this rental attestation form, which, like I said, it can be, I'm going to show you a copy of that in just a second, but it can also be found through the link in that application. And I do have a copy of this rental attestation form. So if you need it, I can always send it to you. And I'm going to give you my email address a little later. So you're going to need a letter or a ledger showing back rent. Now, I don't know why I put this in here. I do not want you to ask for utility assistance because it complicates this application. But if you feel like you have to, you're gonna have to provide copies of the utility bills. You just gotta hope that these utility bills do not come due before the application is approved and paid. Because they don't pay the utility companies right away either. And the utility companies will not hold shut off notices, even knowing that our neighbors have made these applications. If our neighbors have medical bills that you feel like strengthen their application, definitely you can upload those at the end. Oops, I'm sorry. And you always want to provide documentation that's for one of those automatic qualifier programs, okay? And so these are the automatic qualifier programs again. It's food stamps, it's the cash assistance, which is TANF, it's the disability, which is SSI. If they get WIC, they're have a child enrolled in Head Start, if they get the earned income tax, or Medicaid. I really like the Medicaid ones because they're so easy to prove. People have their Medicaid cards in their wallets. So it's a very easy one to prove. So as I said again, SAFHR will pay up to 12 months. In our example that we used, well, actually, I'm sorry. So you're hoping that people don't owe more than 9 months so that you can always ask for the 3 months of forward rent, okay? In total, they can ask for 12 months. Like I said, in the example, we were only asking for 6 months, 3 months back rent, 3 months forward rent, which allows then that neighbor to possibly make a second application in the future, as long as they don't exceed this 12-month total assistance request.
Lynn, if they make a second application, is there a time frame between the first application and the second application? Or
Well, if you're asking for that 3 months of forward rent, you have to wait till after the forward rent, because the SAFHR is going to expect that they're okay until those 3 months of forward rent have expired. So really, you're going to have to wait until they get back, until they owe back rent again.
Well, we had someone who had was hospitalized with COVID, and so he needed, and he was trying to be very honest about it, and so he only asked for 1 month's rent because that was all he was, really needing at that time. It was just 1 month, of rent to cover the time that he was out and recovering. But then 2 months later, he lost his job because of cutbacks due to COVID. So can he reapply then?
Absolutely. And please, please, please make him apply for forward rent, because this is the gift that you're giving
Okay.
them. I know people want to be, they don't want to ask for more than what they need, but
Right.
this is where you get to say to them, this is the gift that
Okay,
has been provided for you to help you get back on your feet. So
Okay.
you need to help them apply for forward rent.
and
So,
had
yeah.
I understood this better, we would have. I tried to encourage him to do that, and he was trying to be very honest about it, and so he did not. So, okay, this
Yeah.
is very helpful.
Well,
Okay.
and that's why when I help people, I tell them, I know you don't really want to,
Mhm.
but this is what you need. So we're going to give you what you need. And that's where I kind of twist their arm a little bit and say, this
Okay.
is for your own good. So let's do it. And then
Okay.
I help them do it. And that's why, as a Vincentian helping them with these applications, you can kind of be that voice of reason that they need.
Yes,
So-
if they don't have a savings account at all, therefore that's why they can't pay their rent. They need that, you know? That's,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of the people that I'm helping with these applications, they pay their rent with a money order every month because they just don't have bank accounts.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm gonna get through the rest of this really quickly. We've kind of been asking questions as we go along, but so this is the part that you really need to help the landlords too. Most of the landlords that I talk to, they're frustrated, and they are frustrated with just the situation that they find themselves in, the fact that they have tenants that haven't been paying their rent. Up to now, they were not allowed to evict them. Now they are. That's kind of why I really try to get in there and listen to the landlords so that they will cooperate with these applications. And I really do just let them vent to me about what they're feeling and what they're going through to help get them on board so that they will help our neighbors. So down here, you're going to see the landlords will need to provide a copy of their ID, this W-9 form, which would take the place of that EIN number that some landlords don't think they have. The W-9 form just asks them for their name, their address, their social security number, and then they have to sign it. It's a pretty easy form. And you can find that anywhere on the web. It is a federal form. They will need to provide a voided check or a bank statement to show, because the money will have to be sent to them electronically. They will need to provide their account number, their routing number, and then they have to prove that they own the property, which is where this tax record comes in. This tax record can be found on the city or the county websites. I have helped landlords pull up their tax records from the county website. It's very easy. What you print out from that county website, they accept for SAFHR. So, excuse me. Then a lot of times for those landlords that aren't property management companies, they have to provide a letter stating what the tenant owes in back rent. And then you always have to tell the landlord that they are not going to get paid immediately. It will be 3 to 4 weeks before they get payment. So now this next one is, it's a letter that I helped a landlord write. This was an 82-year-old landlord who said, I don't do computers. I offered to help him. And I just made it a very simple letter that he addressed to the neighbor. And this was a neighbor who'd been making partial payments for 6 months. He told me what she paid in what month and what she still owed. I helped him put it in a letter form, and this was accepted as the back rent letter. I probably made it a lot longer than it had to be, but I just wanted to make sure that it said everything that it needed to say. Then this next example is the type of ledger that you get from a property management company, where they can tell you how much the rent was, if the rent was paid, and over here, if there's fees or payments that the tenant missed. So these are, the ledgers are, you know, they're wonderful, and I love it when a property management company can provide that for me. But not everybody lives in an apartment building that can provide this. And then this is what the rental attestation form is. It's just a very simple form that you put the landlord's information, the tenant's information, what the monthly rent is. And then on this second page of this form, both the landlord and the tenant sign it. And now now you have a valid lease. This will take the place of a valid lease, and it's just a 2-page form that you can find on the SAFHR website. And I also have a blank copy of this form that I am happy to send you. So this is my information. I am free to consult if you need me to look at an application, if you need to run a scenario by me, if you need help with this, I am happy to help. It does help me if you have the person's login information so that I can actually go in and look at the application if you want me to do that. Right now, with my job, I am only working mornings, so I am available in the afternoons from 1 to 4. So feel free to send me an email. My email is lcwolf@sbcglobal.net, or call or text me. I just want to warn you that if I get a phone call from a number I don't recognize, a lot of times I don't answer. So you'll just need to leave a message and then I can call you back. So that's really kind of in a nutshell. I know we went 7 minutes over, but that's the SAFHR application. It is not as intimidating as you think. And if you can help a neighbor with this, a lot of times you can help them think through this. If they only say they want to ask for 1 month, you can tell them, really, I think you need to ask for the 1 month you owe, and then the 3 months forward. I mean, you can kind of be that voice of reason for them to tell them, this is the gift that is in front of them. The purpose of this rental assistance is to, it's really to alleviate homelessness. And so even though some neighbors might say, well, I don't really have a direct impact from COVID, you can say, yeah, but everyone's been indirectly impacted. So therefore you'll qualify, and let's do this application.
So they don't have to be directly impacted by COVID.
No, because we can
Okay.
all say we've been indirectly
Right.
impacted.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
that's the where you talk them into it, is that
Mhm.
we have been indirectly impacted.
Okay.
All right, so there is a message in this chat. Ooh,
Yeah.
they
They
turned
won't
off
ask
our
for any
lights.
proof of that, right?
I'm sorry?
I said, they won't ask for any proof that you've been affected.
No, there isn't. It's just a simple statement. I've been
Okay.
indirectly impacted by COVID. And they take you at their word, because they don't want to track down, really, have you been impacted? It really is just a statement. And they can answer yes to it, then they will qualify.
Great.
So, so the question is, our neighbors in need typically do not want to get behind on their rent. They contact us a few days before fees will be applied. I can't see asking them to get behind so they could apply for back rent. I have done several applications where all we've done is ask for forward rent, because I know that our neighbors do not want to get in trouble with their landlords. And so I am helping another woman tomorrow, and all we're doing is forward rent, because she doesn't want to get behind, but she's recently lost her job and is now looking for another one. So all we're doing is applying for forward rent for her, and we can do that. So you don't have to tell people that they have to get behind to make this application. They can just make it for the 3 months of forward rent.
Sorry.
That's all right.
It's all right.
I'm sorry, we're kind of in the dark over here because the lights went off on us.
So
So,
the owner of the building likes to turn the lights off.
all right, well,
There's no movement.
yeah, so I'll kind of come up here. Hopefully this is a little, so do you guys have any other questions?
This is Barb. I just have, I've worked with Medicaid in the past in my job before I retired, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but when you see a Medicaid card, I don't know if it says Missouri Medicaid or if it says Mo Health Net.
It's Mo Health Net is what,
Just kind of want to let everybody know that if they say, here's my Medicaid card, and it doesn't say that, but it should say Mo Health Net.
Right.
That's Missouri's Medicaid. So just letting everybody know in case you didn't.
yeah.
Can you forward the presentation tonight?
So
To all of
if you send me an email, I will forward you the presentation.
Okay,
Oh, good.
So that's probably the easiest way to do it.
okay.
Yeah, and then feel free to reach out if you have questions. I am happy to, if in a month from now, you're helping someone and you get tripped up and you need a little help, I am happy to help with those applications or with any questions you might have.
We're also going to have the slides posted on the website, St. Vincent de Paul website under Vincentian tab. And we're also going to edit the video and actually post the video also.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I hope you guys found this helpful. And it doesn't, this SAFHR application does not seem too intimidating, and that you might, feel like that you could help a neighbor make these applications.
This was
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you.
Very
Oh,
good.
Thank you very much.
yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
All right.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
All
Christmas.
right.
Merry
Christmas.